The sun is opposite Neptune. Let's talk about it. So, this aspect, I think, has the potential to shed a harsh light on where we're being unskillfully Neptunian, where we're being overly intoxicated, or being overly fantastical, seeing things through rose-colored glasses, delusional, and where we might just be seeing the glitz and glam of something and not reality as it is. And that can be, really difficult, especially if we're very invested in this fantasy or this delusion. And ask the Sufis. They thought intoxication was a good thing, and I'm not meaning literal intoxication. Intoxication insofar as being consumed by a love for something or someone, while understanding reality as it was, but allowing love to guide them, allowing their heart to guide them, so they could find God and find Allah and become closer to Allah. And so that can, when we don't have the light of reason, which is the sun, to guide us and give form and definition to things, things get nebulous and confusing. So we want to make sure that we are, being real. That's what the sun is. It identifies what is real. And we want to see how we might be wrapped up in delusions of grandeur, how we might be wrapped up in, thinking too highly of ourselves. The victim martyr complex that Neptune has, we might be shown how we're playing into that and perpetuating that ourselves, onto ourselves or onto others, or how others are perpetuating that onto us. If we constantly need saving, or if we constantly need to be the one that does the saving. And also, I think that could help us, I think oppositions, although they're hard, Saturn does reconcile through polarity. And so it might show us how our spiritual aspirations are about the dissolving of the illuminating of ourselves, the parts of ourselves that are too engrossed and too intoxicated in this fantasy, that are too enmeshed and merged into this soup of how we, are the ones that need to be the ones that illuminate and all that. We can be messengers. We can share our findings, but when we get a case of guru-itis, thinking that we're the ones that have the answer and that everyone else is deluded and wrong and benighted, start going into harmful territory, I think. And to me, the sun is a reminder. Even the glyph of the sun is it is the illumined mind and illumined reason that helps us see reality as it is. That's what happened when the person emerges from the cave in Plato's allegory of the cave. the sun allows them to see things as they are. And I think that when we see things as they are, that can help us become closer to God. When we do our best to see how things are, because I don't think that we can attain absolute truth. We're always going to be calling things into question. We're always going to be wondering. And I don't know if we can ever really figure every single thing out that there is to figure out. I think we get many lifetimes and many go-arounds to figure out as much as we can. But the use of our mind as a tool to shed light on things is, I think, a spiritual component of mystical union yoga, which Neptune represents. Mystical union with God. And I don't mean like a dude with a white beard on a cloud, but the principle that enlivens and gives vitality to all things great and small, that created the living cosmos, that created eternity and is yet beyond eternity, that created time and is yet beyond time. It is beyond those things and yet imminently present in all of the things that it creates. And we, being created in the image of God, have a little kernel of that light, that illuminating light that creates things and gives vitality. And we're all fractalized components, little embers to the great fire that created the cosmos, created everything. And so I think that when we start seeing ourselves not as God necessarily, but as a reflection of anthropos, which is the Gnostic. It's the Greek word for human being, but it's a Gnostic term for the first man, the bringer of and giver of all sciences and all mathematics and music and astronomy and all things that help us see things with reason, and thus start creating as God created in our own sphere of influence insofar as is possible. Then we step ever closer to yoga. That was really heady. Sun Neptune got me acting esoteric. Happy Sun Neptune opposition.